그러게. 어? 여기가 어디지? 호주대사관이잖아.
I arrived in January, but in fact it's not my first time in Korea. I first came to Korea before any of you were born 40 years ago. So this is actually my third time working at the Australian Embassy in Korea. And I have personal reasons for saying very quickly, yes, I'd like to come back. We've always had a good relationship with Korea. But in some ways, there was a lot of potential that we didn't realise. Our economic relationship has been hugely valuable for both countries. Australia's been a very important and very big supplier of energy and resources to Korea's economic growth. Purchases of Australian resources and energy has been made a big contribution to the expansion of those industries in Australia as well. To take the bilateral relationship to an even higher level as like-minded partners. So in that regard, the opportunity to come here as ambassador, I was very excited about. I'm very optimistic. I think the opportunity for me to be here now as ambassador, effectively to be a 중매쟁이 for the two countries, has never been better. You know, there were Australian missionaries who came to Korea in the late 1800s, and some of those missionaries, made a significant contribution to the development of modern Korea. There were 3 Australian women, for example, who were instrumental in setting up the first Western-style girls' high school, Ilshin High School, in Busan. I was really honoured to accept on behalf of the families of those 3 Australian women who recognised them as Korean independence activists. So Australia, of course, contributed forces to the UN command during the Korean War. And I have to say, just a couple of weeks ago, it was really touching. There was an Australian Korean War veteran came back to Korea a couple of weeks ago. He's 92. Right? He was 19 when he was fighting here in Korea, and he said that time was the worst time of his life. It was a terrible time for a young man, and he coming back here, he said the biggest thanks that he could have was the success that the Korean people have made of this country. There is a very stark comparison between South Korea and North Korea, and for him to come back and to see how successful this country has become made it feel for him that sacrifice of his youth was well worth the effort. Korea's success was the biggest thank you to those old, mostly men, who actually did sacrifice part of their youth. Subsequently, Australia and Korea developed a hugely valuable economic partnership, as I said, where Australian energy and resources provided a lot of the growth for Korea's economic engine that helped create the economic success out here and the improvement in people's lives here. But the other thing is the people-to-people links. When I first came to Korea 40 years ago, a lot of people in Australia didn't know much about Korea. That's changed a lot. I mean, things like K-drama, K-pop, Korean food, all those things have become much better known in Australia. For example, we created one new position in the embassy last year, and 60 young Australian diplomats applied for that job. 60 people. Korea has become a really popular post. Younger Australians, there's a keen interest and awareness of Korea. Korea has become hip and cool and popular, and that really helps Korea's soft power internationally And it makes my job as ambassador here much easier because a lot of very bright young Australian diplomats and other Australians are really keen to come here to Korea. I have been struck at how closely aligned Korean and Australian perspectives are in terms of the broad challenges, not just in the kind of normal diplomatic things, in security, but also, for example, the importance of working together to address climate change, in terms of the work we do together in terms of engaging our regions, perspectives on the challenges that both Australia and Korea face together, and the importance of us working even more closely together and with other partners, other like-minded partners, to address those challenges. This is what diplomats do. They try and advance our own interests, but to the extent that we can do it in close cooperation with foreign partners, that is our job. So I was struck that the 2+2, there was a lot of agreeing, a very common perspective about the future. What the Korean side raised was the potential interest of Korea being considered as a future partner in the AUKUS 2 pillar arrangements. Now, I'm sure you know, but AUKUS Pillar 1 is a trilateral partnership between Australia, the US and the United Kingdom to develop nuclear-propelled submarines for the Australian Navy. AUKUS Pillar 2 is actually a technology sharing partnership, initially between Australia, US and UK, to develop a very advanced conventional military capabilities to strengthen deterrence and to support peace and stability in the region. And of course, what was referred to was that Korea also has developed some very important defence science and technology capabilities. So this agreement was Korea could potentially, in the future, we could potentially start talking about Korea's interest in contributing to and benefiting from aspects of AUKUS Pillar 2. What those might be and when. So there is already quite a significant Australia-Korea defence industry and defence operations kind of partnership developing. We'll see where it goes. The Australian Navy, for example, has decided to significantly expand the size of its surface warship fleet as well. Korea was one of 4 countries that have been shortlisted to supply 11 multi-purpose frigate warships. So that's a process also underway, and I'm sure there will be other capabilities, not just in the AUKUS framework, but in other ways where Australia and Korea can actually work more closely in defence and defence industry areas. The key thing, and we've already touched on it, is having shared interests and shared perspectives. The whole process of diplomacy is about communicating with foreign countries. And when you see that there is an alignment of interests, so diplomats can play a role in terms of generating, an understanding of where those interests are. We don't engage in diplomacy because we particularly like other people. Ultimately, diplomats look after the interests of their own country, but if you can do it in a win-win way that also supports the interests of your foreign partners, that's the best outcome. So in a way, the 2+2 kind of highlighted and underlined how closely aligned Australian and Korean interests are, our perspectives of, the opportunities for us to work together more closely. We've got to this point over a long period of time. We are both members of the Indo-Pacific region. We share a lot of values. We share values in the maintenance of a world order based on compliance with international rules, laws and norms. Some of these rules, norms and laws are under challenge, and middle-sized powers like Korea and Australia, we have come to the conclusion, each of us, the importance of defending that. It's very much embedded in President Yoon's foreign policy approach, the importance of Korea developing even deeper partnerships with other like-minded countries that share values. So in a way, I'm very pleased to be ambassador because I can see that the forward agenda for Australia-Korea relations is a very positive one. That is not always the case. We also, in diplomacy, deal with countries that we do not share the same interests, where we have different interests. But in the case of Australia and Korea, it's a very positive forward agenda. Well, the primary objective of that higher education forum is to foster dynamic and mutually beneficial collaboration between the Australian and Korean educational institutes. The initiative aims to share information, promote research, cooperation, collaboration and excellence, and to strengthen those institutional partnerships between both countries. So, the importance of education and research and development is well known. Korea's economy has been based on an effort over many decades to increase the capability of the Korean economy through Korean automotive industry, for example, is world leading in regard to electric vehicles, for example. Perceptions in Australia of our economic advantages such as agriculture and mining, people don't always understand. The Australian agricultural and mining industries are based on very high tech. So they are actually very high technology industries that Australia has taken a lead and has comparative advantage. Korea has developed, it's a very strong manufacturing-based industry based on research and development, high tech, and education. So, the education between the two countries is really important. Up until now, we've had a very valuable educational relationship. At one point, Korean students in Australia were the third largest source of foreign students in Australia. Well, I think there are many factors that contribute to Australia's popularity among international students, not just from Korea. There is a very deep tradition in Australian universities of encouraging original thinking and innovation. There is a diverse and inclusive culture. So when you go to Australia, right, you see people from all over the world. My own wife is Korean, right, and yet she is also as Australian as she is Korean. And she feels very welcome and comfortable in Australia. It's a safe and stable environment. When foreign students study in Australia, there are also part-time employment opportunities. It also enriches their experience. Rather than just sitting and studying, they have an opportunity to become part of the Australian workforce and get to know Australian people. There's also quality of life. I mean, this is a beautiful day here in Seoul. This is kind of what the weather is like in Australia most of the time throughout the year. There's also those networking opportunities in terms of an opportunity to go to an Australian university and meet people from all over the world. Not just Australians, but people from all over the world. In regard to the field of study, now that's a hard one. There are a wide range of programs available, but what I would recommend is students should choose the subjects that they are most interested in. If you are studying something that you are passionate about, that you want to do, that is the best thing. If you can have a job where you wake up in the morning and think, wow, I can go to work today, isn't that exciting? That is the best thing. Not everyone gets to do that, so that's what I would recommend. Having an opportunity to go and study in a place like Australia, you learn a lot of things, opens your perspectives, you make new friends, you learn English better, but you live in a diverse, interesting society where there's food from all over the world. But ultimately, people should choose to study not just because their parents tell them to, but what really is your passion. Hi, I'm Jeff Robinson, the Australian Ambassador to Korea. I want to introduce to you one of the most important members of the embassy staff. This is Coco the koala. As you would know, Australia has a lot of really unique wildlife, including koalas, quokkas and kangaroos and many other things that people really know well. It's a feature of Australia with this unique wildlife, but I have to say, having Coco as part of the embassy team is fantastic. Everyone knows who Coco is, but I have to say Coco is very cuddly, a little bit overweight, right? But always very friendly. So I'm really pleased that Coco's here with us today and part of the embassy team.
혹시 코코 우리와 함께 춤을 춰줄 수 있어? 고마워.
Which university?
Oops, do you know?
Yep.
Yeah, oops. I'm from Hanyang University.
Hanyang?
Yeah.
I'm from Korea University.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I always like talking to young people. Makes me feel young.
Ambassador.
But I have to say, I came to Korea 40 years ago when I was about your age, and coming here had a big impact on me. And I've always really liked being here, but I've also seen Korea change so much. Back 40 years ago, very developing country, in some ways quite difficult, a lot of restrictions. It's really pleasing for me to see what your parents and grandparents have developed in terms of society. They think young people don't really appreciate or are grateful. It's probably true though.
Yeah, my kids, yes.
Anyway, thank